Hello everybody, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch with an obituary of sorts, and this is one of those cases where the person or thing that died, most people kind of sit back and go, huh. And that's exactly what happened today. Adobe Flash died again. And I say again because, frankly, Adobe's been dying or Flash has been dying for quite some time now, and one more nail was just drilled into that coffin. Now, if you grew up with the web, you probably grew up with Flash. It was the way to make things happen on the web. And it's actually been used as an application development language for quite some time now, and has made such famous applications as Angry Birds, and also gave rise to basically the concept of a web arcade. But sometime back in, I believe it was 2017, you will notice that Adobe on their blog loves using these really big icons. So let's scroll past the really big icon, and we're back in 2017. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of this. This is old news for just about everybody. But basically, the key part right here is this one. They're talking about how the web has become so great with things like HTML5, WebGL, WebAssembly, and so on. Given this progress, and in collaboration with several of our technology partners, including Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Mozilla, Adobe is planning to end-of-life Flash. Specifically, we will stop updating and distributing the Flash player at the end of 2020 and encourage content creators to migrate any existing Flash content to those new open formats. Now, this was just Flash. The Flash lived on, or ActionScript lived on at least, as a programming language and a programming model in the form of Adobe AIR. Now, what Adobe AIR allowed you to do was basically compile Flash applications or Flash projects into applications that ran natively on the likes of iOS and Android, and got around Steve Jobs' attempt to kill Flash outright. So basically, you could use the Flash tools and the ActionScript programming language to create applications. You could use Flash just like you would use C# or Java or so on as a programming language and framework. And there were a bunch of game frameworks built for Flash. There was Stage 3D for making 3D applications. There was things like Flixel and Flashpunk and so on. It had a huge and vibrant ecosystem that's been kind of slowly dying off, or quickly dying off, I guess, since the Flash player itself was killed off. Well, fast forward to today, and like I said, we've got one more gigantic nail in that coffin, and that is the future of Adobe AIR. So all those Flash developers that kind of couldn't deploy on the web anymore could still deploy in application format. And well, this is being impacted with today's announcement. So basically, launched back in 2008, Flash AIR Runtime enabled developers to create and deploy Flex ActionScript HTML5 based content as standalone desktop apps, as well as native iOS and Android apps running on mobile devices since 2010. Blah, 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 blah. And here we go. As of June 2019, Adobe is transitioning ongoing platform support and feature development of AIR to Harmon. That name may sound familiar to you, and we'll get back to that in a second. This will coincide with Adobe issued release of AIR v32 for supported mobile and desktop platforms. Harmon has a long-standing history as an Adobe AIR partner, maintains knowledge of the platform and ecosystem, and is well positioned to support AIR developers moving forward. So basically, June 2019, Adobe is done with AIR. It is now a Harmon product. Have fun with that, Harmon. And you will see down here, the final kind of, yeah, we're done here. Adobe will provide basic security support, limited to security fixes only for desktop platforms for Adobe AIR v32 until the end of 2020. After that time, Adobe support for AIR will be discontinued and ongoing support will be managed by Harmon and communicated by them directly. So basically, by the end of 2020, no more patches at all, and by June of 2019, no more development other than security-related patches. So it's a Harmon product now, and you can basically call it dead. The company that made all the development tools and the ecosystem is done with it. And the kind of writing's been on the wall for a while. Now back to that Harmon. Now Harmon may sound very kind of familiar to you, and that is because they used to be a company called Harman Kardon, and they were really strong in the speaker space, and they owned a bunch of other people such as JBL. So you probably at some point in time either owned a laptop or some desktop speakers that were made by Harman Kardon. And they are a fully owned subsidiary of Samsung. And why the heck they were buying Flash, I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest. But they are not a development company. I don't see a future here. I think if you haven't read the writing on the wall, Adobe Flash is dead. Flash Player is now dead, and Flash or Adobe AIR is just as good as dead at this point in time. So if you are one of those last vestigial Flash developers out there, I hate to tell you, but it is time to move on now. You do not have an alternative anymore, unless for some reason Harmon picks up and massively revitalizes it. But yeah, I gotta say, I don't know of too many great developer tools that came out of Samsung in any way, shape, or form, so I'm not putting a lot of faith in this happening. And it's a very strange acquisition. I'm not sure why that's going on, but that is that. So how do you feel? Do you care about Flash, or is Flash... this is kind of like watching Real Player die to me. I don't care anymore. I never really admired the language that much. The web technologies that supplanted it have come a long way since, and they now have that vibrant ecosystem and good tooling and such that made Flash attractive in the first place. So I shed no tears over this, but I'm curious to hear what your opinion here is. Were you one of those people that was hanging on to Flash after the the official deprecation of the website because AIR was still around? And if so, how does this announcement affect you? Or are you pretty much in the don't care category just like me? All right, that's a bit of, I guess, depressing news for some people and news for others, but it was news nonetheless. All right, that's it. Talk to you all later. Goodbye.